Shando Calrissian, and the women have taken control. It's about damn time, right? Wes and Steve are sitting this one out while Desi and Joey are here to take their place in View the Right Thing. The ladies have journeyed from a paradise to deliver their take on the landmark film Wonder Woman, in theaters now. Ladies, put on those tiaras, lasso yourself a snack, and men, just sit back and relax. We got this. It's time for View the Right Thing.
Welcome to a special episode of View the Right Thing. This episode is not just for ladies, well, for men also, but by the ladies. We are taking over the podcast.
Boom.
I am Desiree, and I am here with Joey.
Hello.
Joey, do you want to tell our viewsters what it is that you do? And
Yes, and this is how I came to meet Wes and Desi. When I'm not acting, I'm a professional organizer, and we had worked on a very large yard, I call it a yard/estate sale, and got to be very close. I think we all kind of hit it off very quickly, and immediately wanted to have game dates and stuff like that with each other. So I'm a professional organizer, and I'm also an actress. And recently, I think most recently, I was seen on an episode of Mad Men, an episode of Code Black, and then I was on a bunch of episodes of Teen Wolf.
that's awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. I like to call myself an unprofessional organizer. Nobody pays me to do it, but...
But you're a professional interior designer.
That is true, and you do need to be very organized.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give a special thank you to Shando Calrissian, who's doing our intro for this episode.
Shando.
We love Dwayne, but the ladies are taking it over, so...
Shando's
awesome. She did our excellent intro, and so thank you for that, Shando. Okay, so we're going to obviously talk about Wonder Woman.
Yes.
But before we dive into that, what have you been up to?
Oh gosh, what have I been up to? Working my butt off.
Yeah.
I have a new landlord, so there's a bunch of change going on around the place. So I've been planting things because my neighbor had a bunch of that just moved, had a bunch of planters, and so I can only grow succulents because I have a brown thumb.
Me too.
I can't grow anything.
Yeah. No, I can't either.
I mean, I think at one point I had like a mini herb garden that was doing well for about a summer, and then it went to pot, literally to pot.
Yeah, I had, someone gave me a succulent once, like a potted succulent, and I killed it.
Yeah.
Because I probably gave it too much water because I was so worried about killing it.
Exactly. I'm doing that with my money tree right now. And so when you see your money tree that has been thriving for like 5 years start to lose leaves, your superstitions kick in, and you're like, what is happening?
You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we moved here to this house recently, so we were in an apartment before, so we have just started an herb garden.
Ooh.
And we have a little jalapeno plant, which has got 4 or 5 little jalapenos coming out of it.
That's exciting.
Just started.
It's
exciting. That's pretty exciting, but Wes is mostly in charge of that because I will kill it. I literally kill it.
You know, my mom's idea for when she passes away, she's like, I would like to be well, hey, little Gregory Hines. I would like to be reincarnated, and I would like a little bit of my ashes, not reincarnated. I would like to be, of course she wants to be reincarnated.
I mean, yeah, that'd be great.
She wants to be cremated and have little bits of her ashes put into like some type of planter or something for all of my brothers and blah, blah, blah. And I said, Mom, that is the wrong thing for me. I will have guilt the rest of my life because I know that I will kill
that plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a service where you can get it
like these
put
pods,
into a tree pod thing, and
you just kind of go back in your nutrients go back into the earth.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that would be super like a big guilt trip if you.
Oh my God, it'd be the worst. The worst.
I don't think my mom would ever do that to me because she's also really terrible with plants.
She wouldn't even think about it.
No. We had for a while one really good like ivy plant growing in our kitchen window, and then my mom, there was like a pan fire. She was cooking something.
Oh my God.
There was a pan fire. She took the pan to the sink, caught the curtains and the plant on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And she was like, forget it, I'm not regrowing it.
Well, there goes that.
Yeah, there goes that idea. So you know, I'm not putting any plants in the kitchen.
No plants.
None in the kitchen.
Nope.
So, you know, it's kind of exciting, like, seeing things grow out in the yard, but I'm, like, mostly, like, Wes is mostly in charge.
Yeah. That's why I need to get me a partner who's doing that side of things.
Yeah.
You go out and plant stuff, honey.
Right, yeah. I am in charge of watering the lawn, but that's only because I take the dog out in the morning.
Right.
So then I can remember to do it.
Yeah.
It's still early before the sun, like, you know,
kills everything
all
anyway.
The water and, yeah.
Trying to do your SoCal duty by not doing it when it's boiling outside.
Right, yeah, exactly. I'm still probably watering it more than I should. But.
You know, I did that because my yard at my apartment was all grass at first, and there was just no amount of watering it that was going to keep that grass alive.
Oh, no. And we had one side had no grass when we moved in.
Oh.
Because the parking in this area is crazy. So the previous residents of this place, which was like, you know, 3 or 4 girls.
Really?
Were sharing this place, so they all had their own cars, so they were parking on the lawn on one half. So there was no grass on that side anymore, and the sprinklers were broken, like they'd been, like, you know, driven over and broken and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So when we moved in, we had the gardeners plant new grass and fix the sprinklers and stuff. So that was really exciting, like, seeing it come in, but then, like, half of it died already.
Then I say, when you get really tired of it, you're just like, pea gravel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just rocks.
Rocks. Yeah, so I'm determined to keep it alive for the dog.
Yeah.
Because it's important. It was like it was so hard to find a even somewhat reasonably priced place with a yard in LA. God, like,
I don't think it's ever going to happen for me.
It almost didn't for us. Like, it was really difficult.
It's a cool place.
And we don't even have a backyard, only front yard.
What is this gangway to the side?
So we have, behind our house is a guest house, which is rented separately. So they have the garage in the guest house, which I think is 1 or 2 bedrooms. I don't know. I've never been in there, but...
Do you guys own that part of the property?
No, well, we don't own any of it. We're renting.
Oh, I thought you guys bought this house.
No, I wish.
Got it.
But again, real estate in LA is kind of insane. So
ridiculous.
We're just renting.
Yeah.
But so we share the driveway basically, and then they have the garage, and then we have the carport behind the house. So luckily, there's plenty of parking for both of us because we only have the 2 cars.
Yeah.
But we do have to share the driveway, which means I have to make sure that I go close the gate before I let the dog out in the morning.
Did you hear those 2 dudes out there having a jam session?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure they were. It's really funny because, like, in some ways this neighborhood's a lot quieter than our last neighborhood, because before we were living across the street from baseball fields.
Oh.
So there were, like, little league games going on all the time, and there's like a park and a recreational, like, swimming pool, like public swimming pool there as well, and tennis courts and everything. So it was noise, but there wasn't a ton of noise at night. Like, it was fairly quiet at night. Mm-hmm. Around here, there are a lot of people with outdoor dogs.
Ooh.
And they, one starts barking, then they all start barking.
That sets them all off.
And there are some super noisy birds outside of our house for some reason.
Like mockingbirds?
I don't know what they are, but they start chirping at like 8 p.m. and do all night. Like, they're not daytime. It's super weird. They're really noisy at night. I never hear them in the daytime.
And that's funny, because I haven't heard any birds at my place at night, but in the daytime, there's this one that chirps where it sounds like a smoke detector's battery's dying.
Oh, God.
And it's
the worst.
And it gets that part of your ear where you're like, I gotta stop that!
Yeah.
It's awful.
So, we looked. It's kind of gotten better, so I don't know if maybe it was like really young birds or something. I don't know what the deal was. Yeah. But we looked into a little bit, and they say if you put like a fake owl outside,
everybody's doing that.
They'll scare them. It'll scare them away. Like, they'll be like, "Oh, this is that guy's territory. I'll go find another tree." Or whatever.
A lot of people use those. I've seen.
Yeah, I see them on like big hotels sometimes, because they don't want like people complaining that there's birds waking them up and stuff. So, so birds. Jeez, crazy birds. We have a million neighborhood cats.
Oh, God.
I've seen at least 4 different ones come in and out of our yard.
So many feral cats around here.
And I'm going to have to figure out how to plant something outside of the windows because there's like a lot of dirt there, and they just use it as a litter box. And it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you're just a teeny little monster over there.
Yeah, Walt. I mean, he will chase the cats. If he sees them, he will absolutely chase them, and he scares them away. You're pretty good at it, huh, buddy? You're a tough guy. Yeah, you're a tough guy. Mm-hmm. You a tough guy? Yeah.
I like to think I am, Mom.
He's very protective, and he's also definitely uses his bark as a tool because he knows he's not very big.
Uh-huh.
So we'll be outside, and he'll be barking at the neighbors who are across the street in their own yard, minding their own business.
Like, stop it!
I know. Then we get the squirt bottle, and I'm like, you better be nice. You're being a jerk. It's like your second name, jerk.
Jerk.
He knows it, too.
Yeah, he does. He stopped for a moment. It's like, yes, mother. Smell my monster. Hi, baby.
So,
how long ago did you get to see Wonder Woman?
We saw it Sunday night? This weekend. We saw it over the weekend. It feels like it's Friday to me already.
Yeah.
I just started a new job, and it's like they've been understaffed for a while.
Oh, honey.
And it's like a high, like high intensity job to begin with.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It's like I
don't know whether you're coming or going.
Yeah, I'm like, what day is it? I don't know. Like, it was a miracle that I got off of work when I did tonight.
Yeah, I heard.
So, you know.
You're here.
It was meant to be.
It
was meant to be for me to record the podcast tonight. So I'm really glad that it worked out. Because, like, it really felt like it wasn't going to happen. So you're really lucky that I'm doing this podcast.
Oh, damn. Let them know, Desiree. Let them know.
So anyway, Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think what trailers we saw before Wonder Woman.
I got one.
One trailer.
And it was the Tom Hardy movie.
Where did you see it?
At the ArcLight.
Oh, well, we saw it at the ArcLight Pasadena.
They were showing it in some type of format, and so that gave us the luxury of seeing this
extra special screening. Or whatever.
Yeah, and this trailer was like a full scene. You watched a full scene. It was really loud, and it was
trailer's always super loud. I love how they give you like a disclaimer at the beginning, like FYI, we don't have any control over the volume of the trailers, so don't come complain to us about it. When the movie starts,
then you
can
complain. Yeah. That's so funny.
It really cracks me up.
That trailer looked really intense, but it almost looked more intense than I could sit through. Because it's like, I mean, just the thought of watching a guy in a plane, especially a plane during what I think it was World War II, or maybe it was it's World War II, and the way that they have to look around the cockpit, and it's normal to them. Like, I'm already motion sick just watching them doing it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like, oh, I got him. He's down. There's smoking plane going down into the ocean, and you're like, but that could be you. Like, at any moment, that could be you. This is like, I'm either going home or I'm going there.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know if I want to see this movie. I can't. It's too loud and it's in my face. It was freaky looking.
Yeah. I can't even remember what trailers we saw. Like I said, it's been a long week.
I know, and I'm like, God, do I know anything else that's coming out now that you would have seen?
Well, I know Spider-Man's coming out soon.
Yeah.
But I have definitely not seen a trailer for that.
Let's see, what else do we got?
I don't want to see it. This is like a habit of Wes's that I've kind of succumbed to, is that like if it's like a movie I'm super excited about, I don't want to see a trailer on like a small like my computer or my phone or whatever. I want to see it in the theater.
So you're excited to see the new It?
Yeah, I am excited to see that. I'm excited to see Spider-Man. It's coming out really soon, and it's, I haven't seen a trailer. I've been avoiding it. It did not play before this movie, probably for obvious reasons.
Right.
It being, a Marvel
film.
But that comes out next month. I think in exactly a month, I think.
Oh, wow.
The 7th. I think my watch died. I was going to see what day it was, but pretty sure it's
that.
dead. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I'd love to see some, more female superhero movies, but I will suffice with Spider-Man for now.
When does Blade Runner come out?
Oh, actually, I have seen a trailer for that. I don't think we saw it at Wonder Woman, but I have seen a trailer for it.
I haven't seen a trailer for that yet. I'm excited to see that.
I feel like I haven't seen the original one in so long that I would need to rewatch it.
That's funny because I was late to the party on Blade Runner for some reason.
Yeah, well, I don't think I saw it like when it originally came out.
Yeah.
Either, but I have seen it. I'm pretty sure.
I swear I've seen this
Wes
movie.
and I have this funny thing happens to us where he'll be like, "You haven't seen this movie?" And then we'll get like 20 minutes in and I'll be like, "Oh no, I have seen this."
Oh my gosh, you know what I just saw? I just saw that Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy are both in Dunkirk, and I love Cillian Murphy because I'm such a Peaky Blinders fan.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just such a weird looking dude can be so sexy, so sexy. So maybe I'll see it, but I'll see it on a small screen so I don't feel like I'm falling into the ocean.
Yeah, right. I can't think of any trailers, any other trailers at the top of my head that I have seen recently, but I'm sure there are some. I'll probably think of them later.
Yeah, of course. Something
we'll
that'll jog your...
them. Yeah. Okay, so main attraction, Wonder Woman. We both saw it.
Yep.
Within the last week.
Yep.
It's the reason we're doing this special episode. Partially in solidarity with the...
ladies.
With
the ladies who lunch.
The ladies in general, yes. But with Austin.
Yeah.
And I know the name of the theater, and it's totally blanking on it now.
To the library.
Wes, what's it called?
Theater.
Alamo Drafthouse. Thank you.
Alamo Drafthouse.
I was like, I know it.
Way to be, Alamo Drafthouse.
Like beer reference, kind of. Drafthouse. Alamo Drafthouse. So they're doing. Started with one women-only screening of this film, and it sold out really fast. And then, of course, there was this whole uproar from a bunch of men being babies, apparently.
I don't understand why it was such a big deal to just have an all-female screening.
I don't know. And it kind of, men were, some men, obviously not all men, some men were making the point like, oh, it's reverse sexism, or like...
That's people who say that there's reverse racism.
Oh, right.
And they're like, you cannot say that.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, you don't get to complain that there's a women-only screening when there's been men-only everything for forever.
Exactly.
Like, it's like...
It's unfortunately a sign of our times, because I guess people now only know what they have grown up with. And they've seen more female equality and more racial equality. But, like... that is not deep history. That's recent history.
It's very recent.
And I was ignorant. I'm going to really make myself look terrible here, but like I went to a high school where I was in the minority, and I thought it was so cool, because it was different, whatever. And I had experienced the fact that African American girls at my school wanted to fight me and my friends when we were all cool with each other because one of the dudes was flirting with us. And we didn't have no. I was like, why are they upset with us now? And they're going to kick our butts. And I didn't get it. And then I thought, oh, there's that. And then some people just walk slow in front of it. And it was just. And I was like, well, that was reverse racism. And I brought this up in a sociology class, again, where I was in the minority. And I love the fact that they were very patient with my ignorance, because it was like what you're feeling. Like my love of black people, was how I felt. Like I loved where I grew up. I loved the people I grew up around. I loved the people I went to school with. And I hated being called college girl by an African-American dude at a gas station in Cal City, thinking like, why does he think I'm overprivileged just because I'm white? And I'm like, oh my God, Joey, now it's so much clearer to me. I mean, I was such a kid and I was so dumb then. But I was like, oh, you have white guilt, you dumbass. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that was a thing, and now I know it's a thing, and like it all makes sense. Like for the longest time, I didn't think anything about feminism, and then starting to see my friends who were much more intelligent than I was kind of schooling me as to what real feminism really was, and it's not just being like F you, the man.
Right.
There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
And realizing how much stuff in my past was really shaped because I was a female or attractive or thin or white or any of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And
for better or for worse.
Right. And I think like I grew up in a very small town in the middle of Montana where there were almost no minority people at all. Like it was very heavily white people, and cowboys. Not just white people, but cowboys. I mean, like some of my nephews are like
ranch hands.
Like their first shoes are cowboy boots.
Yeah,
and they are like super excited when they drive by and they see grandpa's cows, and they know they're grandpa's because of their tag color or whatever.
Wow,
and they're like, want to roll down the window and be like, "Good morning, cow!" Like, those are our cows.
Yeah.
So I definitely had no idea growing up. I mean, obviously, I was exposed to media, so I knew that it was a thing.
Yeah.
But like, I had no real exposure to any kind of like racism in my life. Mm-hmm. And like, it's funny because when I look back now, and when I visit now, and like I visit people who have still lived there and have never left there, and they say things that I go, oh my God, that's totally racist.
Yeah,
like,
and they don't know.
Yeah,
because they've been saying it for years.
Exactly. And like, nobody corrects them because there's no minorities around to care that they're saying it.
Yeah. And unfortunately,
exactly.
It still needs to change.
It definitely does. And if it's like something. If it's some, whatever minor stigma, I will just be like, that's not my place to bring this up. But if it's something, like, big, then I'll be like, whoa,
and
listen.
That's why I have a hard time with the fact that there were men up in arms. Like, obviously, there's going to be trolls on the internet.
Just
absolutely. Wanting to spout their ideas because they can spout their ideas.
Yeah.
Behind, an anonymous image online. And a stupid screen name, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But it is a shame that has to be perpetuated in any stretch just to kind of keep anything that's empowering or beautiful down.
Yeah.
And I think it was very cool that they're like, let's just do an all-female screening. Who cares?
I think it's fantastic, and I love them for it.
Yeah.
And the Austin mayor, I have to say, has been amazing through this whole thing. Like, there was a man who wrote a letter to the mayor of Austin basically saying, I'm going to boycott Austin, and I think, I hope your tourism goes like downhill because of this and all this.
This upsets you that much.
And to write to the mayor of the city where this theater did this publicity thing. I mean, they did it because they knew that it would be good for them.
Gosh.
And
they're worried that the women are going to take their wives.
Yeah, right. The mayor basically responded. I mean, his response was like, I'm writing you this letter to inform you that your email has been hacked and that like your good name is being tarnished by this racist, like blah blah blah, like, or sexist, and like we just wrote this whole response back to him like, could you imagine that this guy doesn't know, and like all these facts about women and like their contributions to society.
Yep.
And like
yep.
Because this guy's thing was it was rant. It was like it's totally a rant.
Oh man.
That just went on about like how women don't invent things and like stuff like that.
Just ignorant, like, just straight up ignorant.
Straight ignorance. And the mayor was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, well, clearly we know who wrote your history books.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the mayor kind of, said like, I hope that guy who hacked your email doesn't come to our town.
No problem.
Yeah, we'll be
we don't want him here either.
Exactly. So I really applaud the reaction that both the city and the theater have had to the criticisms.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been really outstanding. And I will say, like, so going back a little bit here to, like, growing up and not really being exposed to, you know, race. I was very ignorant about racism. I will say that I had the opposite. Well, oh, it's okay, buddy.
You're a vicious watchdog.
It's okay. Are you protecting me? Yeah, right. You're tiny. Wes is coming to get you. He's coming to get you, stinker.
Look at that face. There's things happening outside.
Somebody close the car door. He really is, like, super aware. Like, we like to call his ears his little satellite dishes.
They look like little satellite dishes.
They're huge, and
so
they like
cute.
they'll be like pointed different directions.
Oh.
Like he's checking
Sonar
the perimeter.
radar.
Yeah. He's definitely a little watchdog, but I'm not sure he knows that I don't think he could protect me if he tried.
I'll bite your ankles.
But anyway, so I was saying I had the opposite experience with sexism, because when you grow up in a very small, very, like, conservative, traditional, you know, town with a bunch of cowboys, there's definitely plenty of sexism going around.
I could only imagine.
You know, and again, I think when I lived there, I probably didn't know the difference.
Of course not.
Because
you
it
grew
just
up
was
with
normal.
it. Yeah.
That was how it happened. You know, that was just how it was. But, you know, going back and even, like, you know, if people in my family will, like, say things to me and I go, how did I like come from that? And, you know,
I've caught my father in a few of those. And I was like, Dad, you're a misogynist.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Grandma was, I understand why you're a misogynist.
You're right.
But it's so funny because he would say something at the TV and I'd be like, geez, Dad, that's ridiculous what you just said. And I was offended, and then he'd try to argue it with me, and I would just kind of get up and walk out of the room. But then if I had achieved something in my life, I didn't hear, like, you know, well, you can't be a doctor because only men are doctors.
Right, yeah.
Girls don't do
like,
things. He never really
super blatant.
did it to me particularly, but it was his outward behavior towards really the TV. Like, that's how he got mad at the world, was to yell at the TV. And I remember thinking, oof, that's not okay, Dad. Getting into many an argument with him, especially once I got into my 20s.
Yeah. It's like once you, like, step away from that and kind of see, especially, you know, if you know, I moved to, like, Seattle because my dad actually moved to Seattle when I was, like, 3, but I, you know, lived with my mom. Yeah. And so it's funny to see that how much living in Seattle changed me versus how much it didn't change him. Yeah. Like, there are definitely some things that I think have influenced him about living in the city, but he's definitely still, like, has that, you know, North Dakota accent and
he's holding on.
Oh yeah, and he's, you know, he's a contractor, so, you know, he's like a man's man, and, like,
yeah, for sure.
But it's interesting because, like, I don't know if it's just generationally that, like, because I've been so much more exposed to these issues via the media that, like, maybe at an earlier age my mind started being changed about things like that. I mean, and he didn't.
And
you know?
You're a female.
That too. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's just it's like a sociological and cultural parfait. You know, not only is it, you know, the people you grew up with, it's who they grew up with, it's what's around you, it is the media, it's just your nature too. Yeah. You know, they're all components of it. But, you know, like, I would never have said I was a tomboy growing up, but I wasn't a girly girl either.
Yeah, I was definitely a girly girl.
Were you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was a cheerleader. I was, like, on the pep squad, and, like, you know,
I was a dancer, but, like, like, the girls that I danced with all, like, had their hair up in the same color hair ties as the same socks, and that all matched. And I was like, I don't care. I want an oversized black sweatshirt, and I want it ripped on the side. And, you know, I was always a little more like that. And then
You squeak in your toy wall. It's not playtime right now, buddy.
this will tie into the movie. So I, when I went to theater school, like the big thing was to get into, oh yeah, that's a squeaky toy right there, was to get into stage combat. So you got to learn how to fight unarmed, and then your first weapons you learn how to fight with are rapier and dagger, and then you test with that at the end of the year. And it's really intense, and like everybody just freaks out in the big, we all get to do it in the big theater. The finals are in the big theater. And then the second year you do it, you're introduced to the small sword and the broadsword, and then you get tested for like adjudication. So it's like you get recommended, or you get, recommended, or there's the one after that, like the higher one after that. So I was super, super proud of it because like I had tested and gotten like the high end of all of those and got my certificates. And then I was a teacher's assistant for combat. I always thought I want my dad, because he loved like medieval times and medieval times, and both. And I was like, oh, I wish my dad could have come to my final and seen me fight with a sword, you know, like as an actor, and you know, like putting it into a scene and stuff like that. And thinking how empowering it felt for me. Yeah, you know. So when the fight scene, the practice scene with the women showed up in this, I almost like leaped out of my seat. Not to mention, like, the women were strong. Like, I was remember when Tomb Raider came out, I was like, Angelina Jolie doesn't even have an ounce of muscle definition on her body.
But she's like supposedly climbing up rock sides.
Exactly. And like, I'm like, these women were strong women and beautiful, and like the way that they slowed down their movements. There were no overly quick edits with the fights. Yeah, you got to see the movements happen. It was gorgeous.
They really absolutely did an amazing job with it.
That whole scene was just breathtaking to me, because it was like gold and this beautiful light, and amazing.
And it's like, you know, there certainly have been movies before where you'll see like a woman or some women fighting, but this is like, it's all women. And they're totally kicking ass. Yeah. You know? So it's really fantastic. Like,
and I was wondering, tell me what you think of this. Like, with the whole, like, obviously there are no men on, what's the name of the island? It's not, they're Amazonian women, but it's like,
something I'll probably butcher if I try to pronounce.
Yeah, like I just did.
Some Greek something.
And they don't banish men from the island. It was specifically Zeus who said, nope, we're keeping you in this bubble.
You're right, yeah.
And when you are deserved, I guess, to come out, and are these people deserved of you to come out and help, blah, 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 which is like a whole line that she has about like, they don't deserve you, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I don't think that that's a man-hating thing at all.
No,
do you?
No, I don't feel that way about it at all either. But I definitely, like, it's really funny to me when she's telling Chris Pine's character in the boat about, you know, reading all of the pleasures books, and like, I think it's pretty funny that they're like, well, you know, men are just not really necessary. It's not like they hate men,
right?
They're just not
necessary.
Needed. They're like, yeah, sure, they're needed for reproduction, but
right. Which of course was my biggest question, like with the women on the island.
Yeah.
Who's having babies?
Well, I think no one. I think that was kind of the thing. Like, she was the only child on the island, and she's like, well, my mother sculpted me out of clay, and Zeus gave me life. Like, it's like,
so these women they never age?
I guess not. I mean, that's kind of what it seems to me, too, that, like, they don't really know how much time has passed.
Okay.
Like she's grown up, but
she's also a god.
Right, and they don't know really, like, they don't know anything about, you know, modern, like, they don't know what guns are and stuff like that. Right. So it's kind of like they're in a bubble of time as well.
Okay, I can get down with that.
Okay. Because, I mean, really, she's the only one you see age on the island. Yeah. Which is very interesting. I mean, it's interesting to, like, talk about a film or really anything that has to do with feminism in the media, because obviously all the women in this movie are very attractive. Like, and they're, you know, I know they're supposed to be like almost gods, and, you know, she's a god, and that's, you know, I'm sure why they're all amazingly beautiful.
Right.
But, you know...
Specimens. There's
right,
specimens.
Exactly. But I like, you know, that once they kind of leave that, you know, aspect, they at least bring in, like, the secretary.
Yeah.
Who's normal looking. You know?
Yeah.
Like, at least she doesn't look like a model.
Yeah.
Because then I think there might have needed to be a discussion about that.
Which is funny. Like, there was that moment where they're trying to dress her, and she puts the glasses, he puts the glasses on her, and she made a comment about...
suddenly she's not...
Suddenly glasses make her ugly.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, well, I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, this is one of those, like, montage scenes. This is how we make the Amazonian beautiful lady look like a normal person.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you and I are sitting here with glasses on.
Right, yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I'm still attractive.
Yeah. I think I'm sexy.
But it is nice, too, that that is sort of a nod to, like, Superman, for example. You know, it's kind of like... I mean,
that's a great point.
In a modern age,
Yeah,
and in a modern age, like when that kind of thing happened, like I don't know if you ever watched Smallville when that was on, but they kind of like point out when he, you know, puts the glasses on or whatever. They're like, I mean, you still look like the same person. Like,
you're the same dude with some glasses.
Yeah,
on.
This is not a disguise.
Yeah,
really, like it's, and I think the point is that it's more about like Clark is adopting a persona.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not just about the accessory, but, you know, I do love that they put her in the glasses and the dark suit, you know, it was very tied to Superman, and was not the only reference to Superman. I think that, you know, it was really important for this movie to be, you know, relevant.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job of still making it true to not just the Wonder Woman comics, but the comics universe in general. I think that's really important, especially for women who read comics and are in that universe. Like they want it to be true. Yeah. You know, they want it to be right, not just about the message of feminism. You know, like that's And like so, and I'm sure this is like a different.
They want more more than it to be about feminism,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I'm sure. So I don't know. I think you don't really read comics a lot.
No, I'm familiar.
Right. So I think it's really great that they made a movie that's accessible to, you know, people who don't necessarily involve themselves in that universe, but it's still very true to the comics, and it's
especially because this big Wonder Woman movie, like we were talking about earlier, that there hasn't been a Wonder Woman movie, if ever. There have been 2 TV shows.
Yeah, and maybe like a TV movie type series or something.
That this is an origin story.
Right, exactly.
And that I love that they didn't get like cute about it being like if they went to actual modern day now, it would be too much like, what does an Amazonian woman do in the 2000s?
Like with a cell phone, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's weird enough to see her in like World War One period. Thank you. Brain fart. And like to kind of nod to that because she is of something else. It's why she's more comfortable fighting in less clothes because she's used to fighting off of an island.
Right, where there's only other women and she's not really concerned
and she's not ashamed of her body.
Right, exactly.
And it's easier for her to move, frankly.
Right, yeah, I know. I love when she's like trying to like kick in the dresses and stuff. She's like, this is totally impractical. Like, why would I wear this? Like, why would anyone wear this?
Exactly.
And that's great. It's like, you know, she doesn't have that societal, like, you know, pressure built into her
and they
system,
don't have to
you know?
They don't have to nod too much at it,
right?
You know,
it's and you know, so like I said, I do think they did a really good job keeping this very true to a comic book style. I'm not a reader of Wonder Woman necessarily, but I read plenty of other comics, and
I watched the show as a kid, like the Linda Carter show. Like, it was going out of style. Granted, it was like at a period of time where obviously my memory isn't as good. I just remember there was one scene where she was like when she was on her island and she was shaking the coal to try to get the gold out, and then she spun around, and like I like have flashbacks of watching the show.
Right, yeah.
And just thinking she was awesome.
Dog's just chewing on his dinosaur over here.
And also, too, never emasculated the men by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and it was not about like making men in general the bad guy. Like, directly to that message. I mean, one of the bad guys, so, aka bad guys, was a woman. You know? I mean, like, possibly the worst of the bad.
I love that they made her a character. Like, she was like Igor, like with her weird face. Like, it was so amazing. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. I really loved that. I think it definitely was important to keep it true to the period where there were not really a lot of women who were in positions of power or, and that kind of thing, but still have characters, strong female characters in the movie, where they could, basically.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that was probably a very delicate balance.
Yeah. I mean, Patty Jenkins, I think, kicked some ass on this.
Oh, she absolutely did. And can I obviously say, thank God this is directed by a woman, because,
Could you imagine? I would be so fascinated to see if, like, I can't use 4-letter words on this, can I? For shits and giggles. For shits and giggles. Okay, shits and giggles is innocent enough. For shits and giggles, what a great social experiment it would be if they said that some male was directing it.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, from the beginning,
and
it would have just been...
like...
and so it's interesting, too, because Wes and I have talked about this a little bit in regards to She-Hulk, who's my favorite character.
Say her name again?
She-Hulk.
Oh, She-Hulk. Okay.
Yeah, so she is my favorite comic book character. Mm-hmm. For a lot of reasons. She's, she's of her era. Her book started in the 70s, and, there definitely was still plenty of, like, sexualization of her in the comic books. But what I love about her is that she's a strong character before she's even a superhero. Like, she's a lawyer, and she's smart, and she's fighting for
justice.
Yeah, fighting for justice, and in a time when female lawyers were not the norm, and it was a struggle for her to
make it
to be like taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what I love so much about her character is that she's not just strong when she's hulked out. She's strong
mentally
all the time.
Yeah,
and she. So that's part of why she's one of my favorite characters. She's also, in her, like, 80s books, is very irreverent and, like, talks to the reader and is like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's like, and she's just, like, super kind of silly, like, look, I know this is ridiculous, like...
I'm sad that completely went past me as a kid.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, I didn't start reading it until I was in my mid to late 20s.
Oh, wow.
Like, the only comic books I read as a kid were, like, Archie. Like, the Archie's Digest that was at the register when you go to the grocery store.
Right.
Because when we were growing up, comic books were not for girls.
My brother, of course, I grew up with two brothers, one on either side, and my younger brother was super into X-Men, and all of my other female friends had brothers who were super into X-Men.
Yeah.
So I would grab my brother's comic books and look at it, and when I saw Storm the first time, I was like, I want to be her!
I know! I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, and that was, like, sort of my first, like, taste of comic books as a kid, was seeing all my, male friends with their X-Men.
Yeah.
And being like, whoa, there's girls in this. Like, why can't I read this? And, like, I didn't really, like, explore it at that time.
Yeah.
And even when Wes and I first got together, for, like, probably the first half of our marriage, he was like, I really think you should read this comic book or read that comic book. I really want to get into it. And I was like, whatever, it's not my thing. And then like at some point, I've always, like I said, I've always kind of read Archie like on and off, like, and like Betty and Veronica. So I love Betty and Veronica.
Right.
And at some point, like in researching like Betty and Veronica, like I just kind of started to like get a little taste for that, like, like Dan DeCarlo, he's my favorite Archie artist. Mm-hmm. And he, he is amazing. Like the iconic Betty and Veronica is basically his style.
Okay.
So like when I kind of started getting into that, I kind of started like looking at like other female, characters, and I found this amazing comic book character called Blonde Bombshell. And she's super obscure. She's not been in much. And I was like, oh, I'm really intrigued by this character. Like, she's very noir, and she's blonde, obviously, and I'm blonde, and so I have a connection there. And I just was like, you don't see a lot of female characters from that era who have their own book and they're like totally kicking ass.
Yeah.
So once I kind of found her, then she kind of makes like an appearance in some of the 80s She-Hulk stuff, mm-hmm. which is how Wes got me to read She-Hulk. He was like, I got you this She-Hulk, trade, which is like a collection of the books, uh-huh. because it's got a Blonde Phantom thing in it, and it's like I can't like buy Blonde Phantom. Like I couldn't afford to buy Blonde Phantom.
Oh, okay.
Like there's a few comic books. I think this is really typical of the era. A lot of them were printed on paper that was so cheap, and they were not taken care of. So there's not like a ton of them around anymore.
Oh, interesting.
And if there are, they're really stinking expensive.
Yeah.
So,
they've been preserved.
Right, yeah. So
they've been embalmed.
Right. So he got me something that was accessible. It was, a trade paperback where she just happens to have an appearance. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I love She-Hulk. She's amazing.
Wow.
And then after that, it was like all over,
Yeah.
Now, at some point, like I was getting more comic books in our, weekly box than Wes was.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was like once I found like the character that I really connected to, I was like, oh, what else is out there?
God, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking even growing up, I was like, when people would be like, well, who are like your idols? Or if you were going to have dinner with one person and it could be anyone, alive or dead, who would it be? And I always had such a hard time trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I never
feel like
really
I did too, because it's like, there weren't that many like female people who you could really identify with and be like, oh, that's totally
and especially
my
because
idol.
a lot of female women in history eluded me. I think history eluded me a lot in school. Like I didn't pay attention in school really until college. I'm a little in high school, but definitely in college. I just think I wasn't ready to pay attention in school.
Right. Yeah.
But like I feel like I might have. I don't know. Like, did I gyp myself? Did I gyp myself out of like things to aspire to, or I just found them in different ways? I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's one of those things would be an interesting dive into in a therapy session. Like, why do you have idols? Why don't you have idols? Who are they and why? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's like. So what I was eventually going to make it to with the She-Hulk.
Sorry, honey, I cut you off.
I got myself off track. I was like, oh, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And like, I think it's really interesting now that like we are at a point in history where there are actually more female comic book readers than there are male comic book readers.
Wow.
It's by a very small margin, and that may fluctuate.
That's fascinating.
Some point. But yeah, and it's still, even though that is now the truth, there are still people that I run into who don't know that and just think, no, comic books are for boys.
I would have bet money that was not an appropriate statistic.
Right, and like, so like, I have, met people through work who have young girls, like, not quite teenage girls yet, and I'll be like, oh, I've got a comic book they should read. And they'll be like, a comic book? Like, what? Comic books are for boys,
right.
Basic kind of a thing. And I'll be like, well, no, actually, and I think I've found partially through our amazing friend Amy at House of Secrets, which is our comic book place that we go to get our comic books. Amy Dallin, she works there, and she's amazing, and she has really like kind of like, I'll ask her, I'll say like, what are good books for young women? Because, I have 9 nieces and nephews. Most of them can't read yet, but at some point, I want to be able to be like the cool aunt. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of my nephews think I'm the coolest aunt because I have like Batman Legos. Right. And they're like, what? Like, adults can have Batman Legos? Like, so, I want to be able to say like, hey, get your kid to read this or whatever. And so through that, I've been able to find some comic books that are really geared towards a younger audience. Some of the mainstream stuff, like the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff, can get very adult sometimes.
Yeah, very much so.
But there are plenty of comic books that are really great for kids, and I, definitely encourage anyone to get not just their sons, but their daughters into reading comic books.
Yeah.
Because there's something out there for everyone. I mean, there's so many different types of stories in comic books now. It's not just superheroes.
I think the first comic book I read, like the first animated novel I read was The Watchmen.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because I trust what my brother says about reading anything. Right. I trust his taste. He's a writer. I'm like, what should I be reading? He's like, read The Watchmen. And that was way before the movie came. Not way before, maybe a couple years before the movie came out. But it was nice to have a frame of reference. And to have real opinions about it after I had seen the film.
Right.
And one of the female characters. Where I was like, oh, she's all beat down and whatever. I'm like, but she was a ballsy broad. And, it's like, oh, but what I don't know about this comic is still a lot, even if I did read it. You know what I mean? Because you can still get nerdier about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, it's like, it's really interesting because I have, like I said, so many people just think of comic books as superheroes. And there are so much more now. And it's really like just this exploded.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And I read comic books that are about, mythical characters, like a fantastic one called, and it totally just honestly blanked on it.
I hate when
this
happens.
happens. I probably have one.
Sandman wasn't Sandman kind of like that? Or
no, there's one is called, Wes, so I can't even remember the names of anything right now.
You're on the spot.
Yeah.
And I wish I could help you.
Okay, it's going to come to me.
But I'm a dum-dum.
But it's a fantastic comic about, fictitious characters. So like Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, and all those sort of fairy tale characters who have their universe has been threatened. And so some of them have escaped and live in New York. And they live in like a sort of a little pocket, like a protected, building, like an apartment building that they've sort of taken over and have protected via magical means and whatever. But some of them like live in society, and and it's a super interesting comic book, and they explore like the history of the war that's happening in their universe, and it's like it's totally random.
Yeah, but it's like, but yeah, Game of Thrones or something. Like it's its own world.
It's its own little world, but like they have these interactions with like modern day New York, and it's super interesting. But it is not for children.
Right.
It is very violent, and there's it's very sexualized, and it's very like it is not written for children. Oh, it's called Fables.
Fables.
Good Lord.
I swear I have a client. I'm like, I know I organized somebody's bookshelf and saw a bunch of fables in there.
A bunch of fables, yeah. Well, and I mean, you work with people who do plenty of comic book stuff who are in that world. And so Fables is a really fantastic one. There's another one that's called Sex Criminals that I love. It's about this girl who discovers that when she orgasms, she can stop time.
Wow.
And so she is like...
That's amazing.
I know, right? It's so crazy. Like, where did the story come from? And then she eventually meets this guy who can also do it. Like, she stops time and then is, like, surprised because he's also, like, there in the, like, stopped time, like, interacting with her. And they're like, whoa, what's happening right now? I thought I was the only one that could do
That's
this.
the best sex ever! Yes, stop in time!
And then they start committing crimes while time is frozen.
Oh.
So that's why it's called sex criminals.
That's
and
amazing!
And then there's, like, time police start chasing them, and it's amazing. Like, it's so...
Oh my God, now an aha video is in my head. That is cool.
Yeah, so, like, there's just such a broad variety of options, and, like, I think that not all girls have access to that yet. Like, if you live in LA, sure. Like, we go to our House of Secrets, our comic book store.
Is that the one on Sunset?
No, it's in Burbank. It's on Burbank, I think. Or Magnolia. I don't know. It's in Burbank.
There's one close to me, and now I'm going to walk in that, and I'm going to be texting you, going, Desi, which one should I get?
So, like, any, I think if you're in a metropolis area, like metropolitan area, like LA, there are tons of good comic book stores. And, like, our comic book store, House of Secrets, they give a discount if you bring your children in. Oh, Walt, it's okay, buddy. Calm down. I know you don't like children. It's okay. Hey, come here.
You guys have
It's
no
all
idea how
okay.
cute
Look,
this
there's
is.
Wes. Go see Wes.
What's happening right now?
You're in so much trouble. Oh, look at you. You're trying to hide.
That face. It's like, I'm not moving.
I know. He heard somebody close their door. I mean, they could be coming onto the property.
Like,
you
that
don't know.
wasn't a gunshot.
No, just somebody closing the door.
Loudly. Very loudly.
Yeah. So like I was saying, so they give you a discount if you bring your children into the store with you. You get a family discount.
That's so cool.
I know, it's so smart, and like, but like, like I know that kids in my town where I grew up probably have never seen a comic book store. Mm-hmm. Thanks to the internet, you can get anything anywhere, but they might not know. They don't have that human on the other side of the counter saying, check this out, this would be great for you, like, what's your interest?
That's
and
the
like connecting you.
What I'm hoping is that, again, why I'm hoping like more record stores are coming back, comic book stores. We're going retro in a positive way. It's bringing people back into, like, you love this too, let me tell you to check it out like this. This one recorded in this place is blah, blah, blah. This,
like, if you like that, you'll probably like this other thing. Like, and so, like, my hope for my nieces and nephews is that I can kind of be that source for them and be like, oh, you like this? Let me
check this out.
I don't know, but let me ask my person, let me ask my girl at the shop and get you reading something that's you're gonna love. And it's really interesting because, like, now I have so many comic books that I read that I'm, like, behind.
Yeah, now you've got a to-do list.
I gotta catch up on such and such because, like, I'm so far behind, and that's like TV shows. Like, you know, there's so many good ones that you can't keep up with all of them.
Yeah.
So it's good to find, like, your ones that you really like.
Yeah.
And
stay with them.
Just read those.
Be the fan. Yeah, for sure.
So it's and I think that definitely, I'm sure there's plenty of people who maybe there aren't any comic books that they'll love. But if you don't try, then you'll never know.
Right. It's just another medium.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I'm such a visual person. I mean, I'm an interior designer, and, like, color is super important to me. And, like, I think I'm one of those weird people who has, like, 4 eye cones or whatever.
Right.
Who sees, like, more colors.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So consuming media in such a visual, like, visceral way is
really appealing,
fantastic to me. Like, it sometimes is really hard for me to get into a book unless it's has very descriptive language. Like, if I can form a clear picture in my head of what it is that I'm reading, then I will connect with it on a much
that makes so much
better
sense.
basis.
But I have to ask you something goofy because I always describe this is how people treat their coffee mugs.
Okay.
Do you drink coffee in the morning?
I drink tea sometimes, like a hot
People
English
are
breakfast.
very tactile about their mugs, which is while they will allow, even if they're a little OCD and they want everything to be matchy-matchy, if there is a mug that is like of a certain color or shape or something, people put that attachment, that kind of like visceral, like it feels this way when I hold it and the coffee's like this. And that's why I was like, do you have a favorite mug? Because...
it's funny because I have a few favorite mugs.
Well, I think, I think I'm proving my point right now.
Right, and like it's also it's kind of like ties directly into my like, people always ask me like, well, what's your favorite style of design? And I'm like, I love all of them. Like, sure, there are some that I'm like, okay, that's like green and orange shag carpet is pretty. Ugh.
Right.
But I have at least an appreciation for every style of design.
Yeah.
Like I can see what people would like about it, even if it's not my personal favorite. Mm-hmm. And I think to be a good designer, you have to have that. I mean, it's like being an actor. Like you have to have, even if you're not a comedic actor, mm-hmm. you have to have an appreciation for that type of acting.
Yeah.
And so I'm such a visual person that like I'll have more than one mug.
Yeah, exactly.
I have more than one favorite mug.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Like I have all matching dishes, but I have a million
different
random
mugs. That's
mugs.
the weirdest thing. It's the one dish that's like this
it's okay
thing is very personal to me.
Yeah. Matches. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely
so
have
funny.
I have like a princess mug, and I have like my personal current favorite is one that a designer friend got me because I for birthdays and stuff, I'm always like making people jewelry and doing like crafty stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And so she got me a mug that says "crafty ass bitch," and I love it.
Yep,
it's hilarious to me. it's on like cursive swirly letters.
Yeah,
and like
you're like crafty ass bitch. What
So and I love it, and like. It's so sort of irreverent and it's a little like feminist, but not like in your face feminist, but like a little bit like
that's a badass mug,
right? Yeah, and it's seriously one of my personal favorites currently. Obviously that will rotate, and I'll find a new favorite mug. Exactly.
It always happens like that.
Yeah. But
and of course, I'm always wanting to purge things, but I'm like, no, not
the mugs,
mug.
not the mugs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is really fascinating, the tie between you as an artist and a visual artist being very tied to watching a story being told in front of you very much that way. Yeah.
And it's like I said, like with just straight print media, like it has to be very descriptive. Like it can't hold my attention mm-hmm. if I'm not forming a picture in my head of what's happening. So it's very interesting to have that sort of whole other option, and it's funny too because I have Wes got me this She-Hulk book that is a novelization of one of the comics, one of the like series of comics, and I can't
get in it the same way.
Into it. Like I can't. It's just not the same. Like,
wow, that's interesting.
And it's funny too because like even though I probably could form a pretty clear picture of what's happening,
right? Because
I've read the books and I know like the environment, like I know what the character looks like and all that kind of stuff. I still for some reason I cannot like, and I don't know if maybe it's just hard to novelize a comic book because it is so visual.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, I just can't get into it.
Well, I mean, but again, it's why when you take a book and you try to make it a movie, it's what do you have to kill? Because you need it to be more visual than narrative.
Right, and too, like, I think some of the books that don't translate very well to movies are very much about how the character thinks and perceives things.
Absolutely.
Because they're so in their head, and like, you're getting their thoughts, but that's really hard to translate onto a film without having like a narrator, and like that doesn't always work very well.
Yeah, I mean, look at One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The book is done from Chief's perspective, but the movie is done from third person, not not involved perspective,
right?
Just the
right.
director's perspective,
yeah,
whatever.
And like you get just a very different experience out of that. So yeah, it's really interesting. But you know, like I was saying, I think they did a really good job with Wonder Woman in tying that to the comic book, to the print universe, and making it very true to the fandom, because you know it is such a huge base of women that actually read comic books now. I mean, it's like 51% or 48%. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's very close.
That's so wild.
Which is great, and I love it. And so, like, to have this movie come out and be right is so important and so great. And like, you know, I was teasing Wes earlier. I was like, well, when are we going to get a She-Hulk movie? And I brought it up because it almost has had, like, there have been talks about it. But the problem is that, like, the director who they were in talks with to make this She-Hulk movie, he didn't get it. Like, he was a man, for starters. It's like, you know, not to say necessarily that a man can't make a good comic book movie about a woman, but it's like, women especially are so underrepresented in the production side of movies that it's like, if you're gonna make a comic book movie about a female character, like, you want that perspective.
That's the thing too. It's not just about like blow them up, knock them down kind of stuff, with like a little bit of, you know, with some history and your villains and whatever. That's why this Wonder Woman movie being an origin story is so fascinating, because you understand who she is through and through with every decision that she makes.
Right.
Why she decides to go to No Man's Land. Which, did you hear that Patty Jenkins apparently had to fight to keep that scene in?
Yeah, Wes and I were talking about this earlier, and it was like, she was like, I just don't think that they understood like why this is so important to her, to the film,
and to the film. It's like the crux of the film right there.
Yeah, and you know, she was saying, like, they kept being like, well, who's she fighting? And she was like, it's not about that. Like, this scene is not about who the enemy is, or, you know, she's kicking the enemy's butt.
It's about saving the people.
And it's about her saying, no, I'm doing it. Like, I'm done being told no.
Yep.
This is happening. Like, deal with it.
Yeah.
and it's super important to the film. And so I'm so glad that she was able to keep that, because it would have been a weaker film without that scene. It definitely would have been. And you know, I'm sure you see it more even than I do in LA, how underrepresented women are in the film industry. And, you know, it's we could have a whole podcast just about that.
I just thought it was so funny. I just have to make this comment, because people, again, that like, who's your favorite? What's your best? What's your those questions? Yeah. Which are fun when you're getting to know somebody, but it's hard to really have an answer, to be super descriptive of yourself. But it was what character would you play if you could play any character in any movie? And I was like, Walter Sobchak from The Big Lebowski. And I'm like, because he's hilarious and he's amazing, and he's really... Now, granted, there are wonderful whatever, but in terms of my style, I gravitated towards a male character, because you don't see... You're starting to now a little bit.
Yeah,
God bless you,
getting better.
For having characters who are written that way. And but it's because she is also that way, and she's also a creator and a writer. I'm not. I wish I could have, crafted that niche for myself, or niche, or whatever you say. But it's just an interesting world here in Hollywood
and
land.
Like I said, like we could have a whole podcast, like not even just an episode, a whole podcast.
Yeah, and I'd probably get sick of my own
probably
voice.
There is one, but like so I think it was super important that they had a female director, because so what I was saying with the She-Hulk movie, when they were in talks about that, the director not only was a man and probably wouldn't have understood the character as well, and it's interesting too, because like I say that, but these characters traditionally were written by men, and that's changed over time. There are plenty of female writers and artists and all that, editors and whatnot in comic books now, still underrepresented, much like the film industry, but probably growing a little bit faster, I think, than than film. But like, I just don't think you get the same movie out of a male director. And this guy not only was like, you know, maybe he could have been the most well-intentioned man who like thought like, I really get this character, and maybe he could have made a really great movie. But the man that they were talking to about this movie didn't get it at all. Like, to the point where he said, well, you know, She-Hulk was just created so that Hulk would have somebody to bang. Which, if you know, which is super misogynistic to begin with, but if you know anything about She-Hulk, like,
you've just offended the writer, by the way.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that She-Hulk is Hulk's cousin. Like, they are related.
Hilarious.
Like,
so it wasn't like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're
ignorant.
You really don't know what you're talking about.
Like,
yeah.
Like, it just was like, if that guy makes a She-Hulk movie, I'm gonna throw a fit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be so mad. So, you know, I make this joke like, well, we're never getting a She-Hulk movie, but you know, I will wait for the right person.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, if it's gonna get done faster because that guy will make it, I don't care. I don't want it made. You know. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I'm really just so glad that they had a female director who really understood what this movie needed to be, and you know, was able to keep it very true to the character and to the comic book, and still be like very relevant without being like super in your face about it being like, ooh, it's about feminism, you know, like it it was subtle enough.
It's a good movie. It was just a good movie.
Just generally all around. It was a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Which is funny because I was like, two movies I've seen lately that I'm so in love with are Logan and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, and that's funny because we watched Logan also this weekend. I think we watched it on maybe Saturday, or we might have seen it the same day. I can't remember, but also very good. So yeah, it's. I think they did such a fantastic job with it. I'm so glad that it is doing so well. I mean, it's. Let's see, I have here this weekend grossed $103 million. So very successful film.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I think it's really important because there are plenty of, you know, feminist movies and movies by women and about women and all that stuff out there that do not get that much attention.
Because it's quote unquote feminist.
Right. And this movie was a superhero movie first. And then, yeah, it was also a feminist movie.
It's female empowering.
Exactly. And it's not just like it's not like an angry, I'm going to throw it in your face feminist movie.
Yeah, again, it's like that was not the aim.
Right.
But it was definitely protected.
Exactly. So I definitely have to appreciate that. And I mean, I have to applaud Patty Jenkins as not just, you know, a fantastic female director, but the first female to direct a superhero movie about a female protagonist. Like, it's just, you know, all around awesome.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. But, and you know, I think it's important too that we've touched on this a little bit, but I think it's important that she, even though she was like sort of, you know, the first, she still gave a nod to, you know, the superhero films that have come before this because it's important, you know? It's like...
I love Bruce Wayne's letter at the end.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the picture comes from.
Right.
I'm like, did that say Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. At the beginning, that Wayne Enterprises truck rolls up or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's really important that they put those little, like, connections to that universe in there and you know, gave a nod to what's come before and what sort of has paved the way for a superhero movie to even be a, you know, popular, acceptable, like, mainstream thing. So, because, you know, 20 years ago, sure, you could make a Superman movie, but you probably would not have made this great of a Wonder Woman movie. Like, it just would not have happened.
Yeah.
So, you know. Let's see, hold on. I'm trying to just, I'm looking at my little sheet here of trivia to see if there's anything else I want to, you know, make sure that we talk about or mention or, let's see.
those of you at home, we're just hanging out. I'm drinking pure tea. Can't say the brand unless we're going to be getting money for
Sponsored. I'm sure Wes would love it if we were sponsored by
this
iced
particular
tea.
tea.
We buy it by the case at Costco, and when I say by the case, I mean we buy 6 cases at a time.
Right. He brought a case over to the yard sale.
Yes, yeah, because that's how he rolls. I mean, that's actually probably the real reason we got a Costco membership in the first place.
Just for the tea.
Just for the tea. I mean, sure, we buy other things when we go there, but it was really for the tea. I mean, everything else you can buy on Amazon, so...
Right.
And do we really need, 6 jars of giant pickles?
Oh my gosh, I know. I used to do it every time I went home to visit my folks when I was in college.
Yeah, we definitely do the, the paper products that are not going to spoil.
Yeah, and then they just, erode through every other part of the house.
You're right, yeah.
We cover it all?
I think we covered it, most of it. So let's see. I'll read just a couple of these facts just so we get them in there.
Okay.
So Patty Jenkins' most expensive film that she had directed prior to this was $8 million.
Wow.
And Warner Brothers spent $150 million making this.
Wow.
Which to almost have already made that up in the first weekend is
amazing.
I mean, it's a success. This movie is a success. Yeah. So that's fantastic. So I already mentioned she's the first woman to direct a superhero film about a female protagonist. Mm-hmm. She's also the first female director to direct a film with a budget over $100 million.
The first?
The first.
That's amazing.
How crazy is that?
That's amazing.
It's super crazy.
Wow.
So, all of the props to Patty Jenkins.
Seriously, these things need to be spoken about because that's unfortunate. But
right, God. Thank God it has finally happened,
and
hopefully
and it's
this
great
will.
film.
Yeah, and it's such a great film, and it's been so successful, and hopefully this will pave the way for more of the same in the future. And then let's see. So we talked about there being references to the Superman. There also was a reference to Linda Carter's show. Linda Carter, I don't think was in this one because of scheduling conflicts. I think she wanted to be. There was certainly the option was there, but they just couldn't make it happen. So she is supposed to be in a future film at some point. She was not just forgotten. Mm-hmm. And then,
premiere, I think.
Let's see. I think that's most of the little factoids that I have.
One I can think about is a bad one, and that's just because Lebanon is Lebanon.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty of pushback on this film from less progressive countries.
However, very happy that this is not a white woman.
Yes. And not even an American woman.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, good move. And she was fantastic.
She was amazing. She did
fantastic.
Such an amazing job. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
I cannot say enough good things about Gal Gadot. But yeah, okay, so I think that pretty much covers it.
Right on.
We talked about lots of stuff.
Thanks for listening to us blather.
Yeah, Steve and Wes will have a new episode coming out soon. They are discussing the Argentinian film Wild Tales. I think I saw this with Wes at the film festival. Is it, I'm trying to remember, is it a series of shorts? Kind of. They're sort of connected, if I remember right. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, I saw it, apparently. I barely remember it, but it was good. I remember it being good. I remember it being funny. So check that one out. That'll be the next episode to come out after this one.
View the right thing, y'all.
View the right thing. So make sure you subscribe on iTunes. If you don't use Apple, you can subscribe at vtrtmovies.podbean.com. You can send comments and questions to View the Right Thing on Facebook or on Twitter at VTRT Movies. If you'd like to tweet me, you can tweet me at VTRT Movies. I don't use my own Twitter very much, so probably better to tweet it at VTRT Movies, and Wes will tell me I live in the same house. And then where can people find you on social media?
My website is www.brasstaxorganization.com, TACKS. I also have a Facebook page under Brass Tax Organization, and my Instagram is at Brass Tax Organization. I also have an at Joey Honsa that I rarely use, and an at Joey Honsa on Twitter that I barely ever use. Because I am an old lady and I don't do things like that so much anymore.
Okay, and so that's it for this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and until next time, bon
Bye,
cinema.
guys.